Welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-bow. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. There we go. It's episode 88 of Everything Teams Phone Live, and I'm excited because we've got somebody new on the show today, and we've got Satish, our old MVP, that's with us here at Momentum on the show. Brandon, Bailey, how are you guys today?
It's a beautiful Friday morning or afternoon, I guess these days. The time flies; you just lose track of time.
You lose track. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I'm excited to get to the weekend because it is the weekend before Comms vNext, right? And our friends Adam Ball and Josh Blaylock and boy Pat, and there's a whole bunch of MVPs and Microsoft sort of pros that really do a great job in putting together a show that's really specific to the UC community in Microsoft Teams, and it's quite the learning experience. And I'm pretty excited to be preparing and heading over there. For those of you who've not going over there, Brandon, they probably are going to have a case of what?
I'm going to call it FOMO, fear of missing out, and that's shout out to Josh and Adam and crew for coming up with that tagline. What 2-3 years ago?
Years ago, yeah.
But yeah, it's been a wild couple weeks. I think all of us on the show, or at least almost all of us on the show, are madly preparing for sessions that we're going to be doing at Comms vNext. I know I was saying in the green room that I've got this big presentation, and this weekend's going to be really busy for me because not only is it a presentation, but I've decided to do the daring thing and actually do a physical hardware demo on stage. Satish was bugging me about that the other day, going, "What if this? What if that?" And I'm like, "Dude, we're just gonna go with it." And so I'm loading up a whole truckload of equipment to take up to the convention center this weekend.
Well, Brandon, you say that I'm actually doing a session, and it's going to be on AI stuff, and I'm doing it with a cell phone. That's the equipment that I've got as a cell phone, but I sure hope the calls go as planned. So it'll be interesting to show because same thing, it'll be live. Okay, this is going to be a quick show, everyone, because we've got lots of stuff to get to, lots of stuff to do, and we want to get started. Bailey, I know we've got some housekeeping, but before we do that, I'm going to introduce Louis Berger, who is the latest addition to the Momentum Modern Work team, and that is exciting because, Louis, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you come from, what you do, what your specialty is, and, just go.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick. So Louis Berger, joined Momentum about 3 weeks ago as a voice sales manager. So excited to be at Comms vNext next week, meeting all the partners and customers. It's going to be great. And I know the sessions that we're going to do as Momentum is going to be phenomenal. So have a look at that. My background has been technical for majority of my life. So I started back in LCS, OCS days, worked on Skype for Business, developed and obviously going to Teams now. And so very technical background. And I've decided to pivot a little bit and go for a sales role, right? So, which is a little bit scary, but I think it's been exciting so far. I've met a few good partners. Momentum people's been great. So yeah, looking forward to working with all of you.
I'm just going to say this, Louis, and Satish and Rick can plug their ears. Sometimes it takes a person like you to sell. And Rick will tell you this. I'll get on any call, and man, I can flip that switch, and I can be the best of the best. It sounds arrogant, but I know how to flip that switch. So I have confidence in your capabilities. Is what I'm doing. I'm pumping you up, man. Welcome.
I appreciate that.
Inadvertently, technical people. Now, I'm going to say inadvertently, but like like Satish is an example. Satish talks to customers all day, every day, and they come to us and go, "We need this and we need that," and it's coming from a technical perspective where people kind of go, "Oh, that's how you do that. I need to do this. Like that's how you do that. I need to." So being able to deliver, and I'm going to just say this about the Microsoft community in general. The Microsoft tech community in general tend to be very, very smart, right? Very aware of resources, very aware of vendors, very aware of solutions. And so having an audience that is very in tune technically to what's out there and available, you can't really, it's not a sales job so much as a solution sort of, a solution job, right? It's like, here's the solution, here's how you can utilize the solution. So I think Louis and Satish, that flavor of sales is really, I think, an appreciated approach by customers, and I know that because we see and talk to customers all day, and having a modern work team like you guys is what sets us apart from everybody else. So excited to have you on board, Louis.
Thank you.
Satish, welcome to the call again, Satish, our trusty MVP, one of our trusty MVPs here at Momentum. Satish, how are you doing today?
All good, Rick. Louis, welcome to the team. In terms of the technical side, yep, technical things will still be in place because when you are on call with the customers, you do things on the fly. That's what would make things much more unique for us as such.
Yeah, perfect.
Great.
Okay, Bailey, let's do this. Let's do the housekeeping stuff, get that cleared out of the way, and we can kind of get started on this Comms vNext FOMO edition of Everything Teams Phone Live.
Sure thing. Episode 88, can't believe it, but 88 of Everything Teams Phone Live is sponsored by Momentum, where we help businesses thrive using Microsoft Teams. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Bailey.
Okay. All right, Bailey, thank you very much. By the way, I'm going to announce this really quickly because, and Brandon, I just found this out a couple of days ago. We were able to lock down Todd Z for episode 100 of Everything Teams Phone Live. For those of you who don't know, Todd Zitrower is the Momentum CEO. He's tasked with scaling, growing, and charting course and all the stuff that CEOs do. And he's joining us on Everything Teams Phone Live for episode 100.
That is news to me. That'll be an exciting episode. I guess we better charge right along for another 11 episodes after this.
That's right. 11 more weeks. There we go. Okay, let's kick things off. Now, Brandon, we've got some things to talk about that we're excited to go see at Comms vNext. But what are you looking for, Brandon? Either at Comms vNext or from the Microsoft suite, because there's some new things we want to talk about too.
Yeah, I think it's twofold, right? There's some interesting, and I'm gonna, Satish, Louis, feel free to chime in on what you hear customers saying, or Satish, maybe things that you're hearing in the Microsoft community from an MVP perspective, without violating NDA, of course. Wink, wink. But I think there's going to be a lot of interesting talk at Comms vNext around, obviously, ton of AI-based sessions. Those are going to be obviously interesting. I think this year's going to be really interesting in the AI space to see what kind of real-world examples start coming to the table for examples, right? I think last year was a lot of, sure, there were some examples, but a lot of people were still trying to process the whole AI as what do we do with it? And then I think the other interesting thing is going to be hearing the flip side of, I think there's also aspects of AI. I saw a post, I think just today, about, Microsoft backing off on one of or two of their big data centers. And, the conjecture is that there's a little bit of cool down happening in the AI space as well, whatever that means. So it'll be interesting to hear what kind of topics come up as a result of that.
This is my guess. This is just, I have no insight into this at all. But my thought is, I did see that not Ilya, I can't remember his name, the AI kind of guy, leader for Microsoft. He was the one that came from DeepMind and all that good stuff. But I think he said that they're working on something that's going to be rolled out in 6 to 12 months. But my thought is that I think they're going to make, or they should, Microsoft, if you're listening, I think this would be really cool. I think you should make Copilot LLM neutral. So meaning, I think it should be a modular choice in what LLM you want to run in your Copilot. Copilot should be like, here's a set sort of framework around integrating with Microsoft, but whatever LLM you want to sort of process your information with, I think you should be able to do that. So anyway, look, I know nothing about security and nothing about any of that stuff, guys. So, but I think having that modular would be pretty interesting. And I was like, well, if you're shutting down all this data center stuff, maybe you're not making room for all the capacity and all the data that you need to store because you're going to outsource your LLM.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be an interesting topic. Definitely, I'll call it buzzword bingo as well, right? There's going to be a lot of that going on. And that's not to say that's a bad thing. But I think there's other really valuable sessions going on, right? Satish can speak to his 2 sessions. I can speak to my 2 sessions here in a bit about what we're covering. And it'd just be really interesting to shake hands with people and just have, that cooler room talk or that hallway talk about what they're seeing, what their needs are, what their opinions are at Comms vNext. And that sometimes is equally as valuable as the sessions themselves.
Yeah. Louis, you were at Comms vNext last year, right?
Yes, yeah, I was. Yeah.
What did you what are you looking forward to?
I think, it's a lot of obviously talk about the AI. So that's going to be interesting, and kind of like Brandon was saying, use cases for this going forward, right? Because it opens up a whole new world for things that we didn't even think about yet, though, right? So, Brandon, I'm not going to spoil some of your stuff. I know what you're going to do, what you're talking about. So that was kind of like awesome to kind of just get a bit of background on that. So, I think there's going to be other use cases in other areas. So we'll have to see what's going on with that, and then. I think that's going to be for me. It's going to be the kind of the main driver. It's kind of the AI stuff.
Interesting. And here's I'm going to say this about and Satish, you were at Enterprise Connect with us. Me, Brandon, and you, Satish, were at Enterprise Connect. I was very surprised, to be honest, at the lack of AI sort of stuff at Enterprise Connect. Were you? I mean, did you find it that it was really AI heavy? I didn't see that. I didn't feel like that was the majority of the show. Yeah, it's Zoom showing some of their stuff, but really in their sort of in their wheelhouse. You had some InfoBip guys there. Yeah, showing that was kind of the most I saw. Was the InfoBip sort of thing. Twilio there that contributes to the space quite a bit. But really, outside of that, I didn't see a lot of really like, oh, this is new, this is amazing, this is shiny. What do you guys think?
The reason for that, Rick, majorly is because Enterprise Connect has an Enterprise Connect AI version of it. That's the reason why you did not see much of those announcements at Enterprise Connect at the UC one. So those 2 events are kept separate. Although there were certain announcements made by NICE, there were certain announcements made by Microsoft as well around the AI things. So, and at Comms vNext, Yuan is coming in and he is the keynote speaker and he leads the Teams Premium and the AI side for Microsoft Teams. So it would be interesting to see what they are doing on the roadmap for the AI agentic approach, which has been the rule of thumb for every organization nowadays.
Okay, so that's interesting. I didn't know that there was a separate show for, sort of AI at Enterprise Connect, if you will, versus Enterprise Connect UC. I didn't know there was a separate show, so that's cool. That makes sense then to me, because now I'm wondering if I'll see this, this aggregation of this right at Comms vNext and see how that's going to work in a big way. That's going to be interesting. I am excited about. I'm actually speaking about AI in my session. I'm talking about sort of the business impact of AI, and then I'm giving, real live examples on a call, on several calls, right? I'm going to walk through real world examples for those organizations to go, hey, is it really capable? Is it really, there'll be agentic workflows behind the audio. So there'll be tasks that are going to be running in the background to show people the capabilities. And then I'm mostly speaking about the business impact. So that'll be interesting. Satish, what's your session on?
My session is more on the Qs app with the latest rollouts that is happening, the Whisper, Barge, Monitor, all those kind of a live demo of how the functionality would look like when you're doing it, how the calls would be working, all those things. So one session I'm doing on those, and the second session I'm doing is on how you would leverage shared calling with the Qs app in bundle, how the cost-effective solution would be when you're using the PSTN with shared calling for Teams voice.
Okay, Okay, that's interesting. That's going to be really good. And Brandy, you got another session, yeah? You got 2 sessions, or you just got 1?
I just have the 1 session.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, got it.
it's a very action-packed session, and if anyone's following me on LinkedIn, they've seen I've been, doing my very poor attempt at marketing, where I try to sprinkle in little hints of what this session's bringing around device integration and automated workflows. And last minute, which maybe I'll give a sneak peek at the end of the show. Last minute, I think we are going to dip just slightly into the AI topic, just to show that, hey, even these device integrations, there's opportunity to bring AI into that workflow. So I have the pleasure of co-hosting the session with Mark Vail, another well-respected name in the industry, and then we're bringing a surprise guest, not so much a surprise anymore. Matt Carlson was with Disney, now at Microsoft. In fact, we've added him to the speaker panel on the Just Attend platform, so you'll see he's part of the session now. But we're actually starting to intimidate ourselves with how much stuff we're bringing to the stage, and we're just going to have to power through it and tell people, hold your questions, because we got a lot to cover.
You're going to need like a grocery cart to get all the
I'm bringing
one.
I'm sure Brandon will run out of time.
I'm bringing
100% Satish, 100%.
I live top floor condo, right? So I've got 6 stories, 7 stories down to where my car is parked in the garage. So I have one of these collapsible shopping carts that I can take into Costco and whatnot, because I get tired of the back and forth. So I look like an old grandpa when I'm pushing this cart around. So I'm going to be rolling into vNext with this collapsible shopping cart overflowing with hardware.
Oh gosh, I love it. That's hilarious. Okay, so Satish, since you mentioned something about the Qs app, let's talk about this real quick. Microsoft has rolled out, is in the process of rolling out, what is it, Whisper and Barge in the Qs app? Is that what you said?
So Whisper, Barge, Takeover are the 3 features that Microsoft is rolling out. One of the most requested features on the contact center side of the business, which is available in every kind of an contact center. So that's something that Microsoft is rolling out in the Qs app in the process. So that's what I'll be demoing during my session. That's the second session after the keynote.
Got it. Now, Louis, in your experience, take the Qs app as an example. How important are a couple of things? I'm going to ask you, like in all of the rollouts that you've been a part of. I mean, you've been, tons and tons of rollouts, right? From LCS, you said, and all that stuff. Now Teams, analytics and recording, right? Like how important are those features as it relates to kind of these Teams rollouts with now with contact center, or the kind of the baby contact center, the Qs app? Because like I don't like, Satish, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the statistics that come in the Qs app are good, but there's still a broader kind of requirement for some of these statistics and stuff like that. So Louis, have you deployed a lot of things that relate to that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on kind of your customers and requirements, and what you need to achieve from that perspective. And Microsoft is kind of getting a little bit further into the contact center space with some of more complex kind of functionality and features, though. But there's always kind of more room for that, though, right? And that's where key contact center partners that we have deal with that sort of stuff, with the analytics and kind of reporting there, to give it an enhanced functionality, to give you that more of that contact center experience that you kind of need to be able to see on real life kind of what your agents are doing, and how it's how your queues are doing, and how people are waiting in queues, right? So that's still very important from a contact center perspective. Microsoft has kind of addressed some of that, but I still think our key partners in the contact center space is definitely kind of fundamental to get that from that perspective. And then after the fact as well, the analytics around kind of like looking over month to month, kind of what your your usage was and all that kind of good stuff, though, is kind of key too. So
who's your favorite contact center partner?
Well, so I was with a customer yesterday and I said it and they all went, what did he just say? Because of his accent. So I'll say it in my American voice, Lou Ware.
Lou Ware.
Lou Ware.
Can you say computer also? Okay,
So yeah,
that's excellent. Okay, good.
I,
Good.
yeah, no, I worked with Lua for a very long time, and in various different roles as well. And they're just a phenomenal partner to have, and a great contact center. And obviously, they're leading the charge now with extensibility and AI and all that kind of stuff, right? So phenomenal. So happy to kind of partner with them from that perspective.
So I want Satish and Louis, I want your opinion on this when we're talking about the Qs app and kind of bringing in the Whisper Barge takeover as kind of that next most requested feature for that contact center light feature. Again, not discounting. We love the guys over at Luware. They definitely have a very strategic place in even our product offer from contact center. But I'd be curious to know what you guys think about, when you start looking at contact center light more holistically. I'm looking at things like we've got basic SMS that's now available for Teams, right? So now I can get at least basic SMS into the chat channel, and not sure what that means from a Power Automate perspective. Don't know what that means from an automation perspective, from a CRM perspective, if you want to integrate the two things. But also then there's these two different extensibility offers from Microsoft. There's the extensibility where Luware is extending Teams into their product offer, and then there's the Teams phone extensibility where I can, when a call dialog box opens up when I answer the call, I have the extensibility option to bring dynamic content into that dialogue. So things like CRM, or I'm actually going to touch on one in my session around video security monitoring. But anyway, around the contact center, what are your thoughts around what is the Microsoft SMS and extensibility options do to help kind of bring full circle that contact center light experience, or does it?
Do you want to go first?
No, you can go first.
Okay. So there are, in terms of the Qs app, has such a lot of functionality is on the roadmap. So right after Enterprise Connect, I was at the MVP Summit. I learned what they are building up, what's the roadmap for next 12 months, and how are we coming most comparable with what Dynamics is offering. Now, the demo which you are doing, Rick, is already available on the Dynamics side. They are doing it. The agentic approach, Dynamic has taken it. And on all the AI solutions that I am seeing in the market right now, the most complete version is what Dynamics Contact Center is being offered. That's the demo that we looked at. They are doing extremely good on the product roadmaps perspective as well. Now, you mentioned SMS. SMS did come in almost 2 months ago, but I don't see any customer sting beam because there are a lot of production issues that we are facing. On that one, we are still waiting on our approvals as well. We have raised up those requests, but a lot of extensibility requests or a lot of extensibility is coming in on the Teams phone side. You never know, tomorrow Cisco or Zoom might come up and have an extensibility into their contact center version into Teams as well.
So just so just so I want to make sure I'm technically clear on the two different ways that the changes here. So number one, you've got, Brandon, you said that you've got the context box. So you've got the toaster box that pops up for your Teams call. That now you can inject information into that call and take the call at the same time. So just if I'm hypothesizing, if I'm thinking about this, I'm going, okay, I'm an AI agent taking a call. I have a summary. I'm escalating that call, but I'm going to, as I deliver the phone call in that very same box, I'm also going to deliver the summary of that call and what the reason for the escalation, that sort of thing, right in that call box. Is that one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. What's cool about that is that if you have a pop-up, if everybody knows that if you have a integration, let's say with a CRM today and Teams, everybody knows this, you end up getting another screen pop up, another browser, another browser, another browser, another browser. You get 100 browsers if you got a bunch of calls, right? So having it just in that dialog box, that's awesome. Also, obviously, also because then you can attach that information to that call and start to understand what your escalations may be if that's the use case as an example. Okay, very cool. I love that. That is going to be a really interesting tool that our ISV partners can then use to make their their solution more useful. So you can stay in that team's window. But then you flip it around the other way. What you just said, what you said a minute ago. If you are a Salesforce shop, or let's just say a Service Titan shop or ServiceNow shop, you can now have your Teams box pop up, whatever. That's the Teams call now can live in ServiceNow or in Salesforce. So you're not seeing the second window pop up, toaster oven, take the call, pivot over to Salesforce as an example. You're now seeing it right inside a iframe, if you will, or a window, a widget inside of Service Titan or Salesforce. Is it? Did I get both those technically right?
Yep, and I think Luware, our buddy Ollie at Luware, we're just throwing names all over the place today. Shout out to Ollie. I think he said it best when he was on the last show or the show before, whenever he was on our show. This whole dual persona solution, where from a contact center basis, maybe you want them living in that service now. Maybe that's their world, and you want them answering the call and never leaving their world. But at the same time, you may have another persona within your business, maybe your back office knowledge workers, that you don't need them to be in ServiceNow, but you need to be able to render that data to them should a call transfer need to happen, or should you need to push data dynamically to them on a per call basis. And it keeps them efficient because now they don't have to go, hold on, let me go pull up that record and look for it. Let me get logged in. Let me, like me, we use Salesforce at Momentum. I don't log into Salesforce every day, but there's times where I get on a call and maybe it's a sales guy. Maybe it's Satish. Sorry, Satish, not really you, but I'm going to pick on you. Maybe he says, hey, I'm working on this deal. Can you help confirm this quote? Satish has two choices. He can either give me a copy of the quote in PDF and chat or copy and paste it, or he can tell me the opportunity and I have to go log into Salesforce and look it up. Versus Satish could maybe have a way one day to call me and it just pops the content for me as the back office worker.
I was going to say I was just going to, I think you explained it beautifully, Brandon. I take a little while to process things, so I got to repeat it back so I make sure I understand it. So this is interesting because now what you're saying is when you're transferring to knowledge workers beyond the contact center, right? And when you're bringing in a worker that is not part of ServiceNow, not part of the call center, but I need their expertise. So now I could basically send that call over to them. They get the contextual information because now it's in their window of the call and they understand what the call is about. And then, man, that's a couple of, it's like a water hose. You got like out both ends. It's like you're coming and going. Like it's like interesting. Teams is just a conduit for information and interactions, right? And you're feeding it to anything you want to feed it to. Yep. Okay, cool.
I'm gonna now pull it back because I know Louis, we squirreled, and I'm gonna ask you your thoughts on Contact Center Lite, the whole Qs app with the new features, and then your thoughts around what does SMS and this extensibility do for maybe how you proposition a customer for, hey, we can do this in a light solution, or no, we got to bring in our friends at Luware.
Yes, I think first off, you need to go and take a look at the scenarios that you're going to need to use, right? So I think Microsoft's done a very good job in kind of giving customers a few options in the fact that they can use the light that's out of the box, right? So your call queues, auto attendance, which you can then extend with some of these functionality. Well, I would assume that's going to happen in the future, right? Where you can have an IVR, an auto attendant with some SMS or some AI or something in there. And then you've got this medium level where you kind of get into the light, which you can go both ways. Then from that perspective, I think you can still use a partner like Luware, because at this point in time, there's always that kind of additional, hey, do you need that advanced reporting, analytics, all that kind of stuff, right? Or maybe there could be a mix. When Microsoft first kind of started talking about using or introducing Barge and Whisper and so on and so forth, I was like, that's going to be interesting because that, that was always top tier contact center functionality. So how can partners now start kind of integrating that and getting to a bit of a middle ground? Maybe Luware can start, adding on top of that with the advanced reporting pieces though, and still kind of use some of that Barge and Whisper, maybe, right? So it's a brave new world out there, I think, from that perspective.
And you bring up a good point, Louis. I think what would be really interesting is it's kind of back to my comment around dual persona. Now I'm going to go way out on a ledge, and you guys can laugh at me, and I can shamefully crawl away from my camera. But what about a scenario like you just mentioned? You got your contact center, and it's doing full barge whisper. It's doing all of the 800-pound gorilla contact center stuff. But what if now, in that dual persona world, I need help, and maybe it's coaching help, and that's it. What if now I can bridge the gap between back office and contact center to say, hey, can you come coach me? And I'm a back office worker, and I can just pop into the Q's app, hit whisper on that contact center agent, and start whispering to him, and I don't need to be the heavy contact user on the bigger platform. It's an interesting concept. Luer,
Yeah.
help us out.
All right, let's do this. Let's pivot now. Brandon, you've got some, I think I saw a post from Mark Vail, did some AI on our fax product. We rolled out the Teams fax product. I loved his post, by the way. He said, when Rick and Brandon came to Comms vNext and said they were working on a Teams fax application, he goes, me and every other MVP laughed at him. And he said, but being on the other side, he says, I see the demand, it's crazy. And he went and explored cognitive services, right, with Microsoft. And why don't you walk us through what that looks like, and what are we talking about there?
Yeah, so I'll set the stage a little bit. Kind of staying a little bit focused on Comms vNext. So Mark and I are going to do a session where it's we're calling it addressing and solving complex call flows with Teams Phone. I'm paraphrasing. My I should have chosen a shorter title. I chose one so big I can't even remember the name of my own session. Anyway, we're doing this session where we're taking everything we've learned over the last year from customers, from people like Louie and Satish asking, hey, is it possible? Could we do this? Can we do that? And we've compiled this really interesting presentation to show some pretty interesting scenarios that use third-party integrations. It could be hardware, it could be backend with Power Automate, and it could even be somewhat AI driven. So this particular flow is, we obviously we have our Teams fax that's Momentum specific, that's heavily integrated into Microsoft. But to set the stage from a hardware perspective, I think something that's not as commonly advertised is our Teams fax service integrates into a physical fax machine, right? So if office worker gets, there's a fax that comes in, the office worker can get the fax off the physical machine and look at that document, while at the same time we can pull it into Microsoft Teams, our fax service in Teams. And I'll get my screen up here so you can see this. So this is the fax app. So let's assume that I've got a fax machine, which I can't show, obviously, sharing my screen, but it's sent a physical copy. I've received the fax. And in this case, I'm sending a fax to our Momentum office about bocce ball, because come Monday, Louis, Satish, Rick, you and I, we're all going to be playing bocce ball Monday night to kind of kick off Comms vNext. So if you're going to be attending Comms vNext and you see this session before then, I guess sucks to be you. You can come find us wherever we're playing bocce ball. But anyway, let's say I've sent this document and the office worker is like, oh man, maybe it's a 19-page document. And they're like, what I got to now spend time in between answering calls and this and that, understanding what this fax is and where it needs to go. So what we've done is now that we've taken that fax as it's delivered to the physical fax machine, we've also delivered into Microsoft, into the Teams fax service. And what we've done, just as call it a proof of concept, is we've connected it to the Azure Cognitive Services, and we've run it through an OCR method. So we've taken the PDF and turned it into text. And then we've run that into an AI engine, OpenAI or Azure, whatever they call it, Azure OpenAI. And we've summarized this, right? So this is the bocce ball rules. I think there's 2 pages here, right? So as the example, we're just feeding that through an AI engine, summarizing it, coming up with a call to action, and posting an adaptive card just to show, like, hey, here's what the document's about, and here's some possible calls to action, next steps that you need to do with this document. And then you've got an option to just reopen that document in SharePoint if you want to review it. So, this opens up a whole world of what you can do with data flows. Again, whether it's fax coming in and out of physical machines or any other data flow, email, whatever, hooking that up to cognitive services to do things around, maybe I want to OCR that document and start detecting where, maybe it's a doctor's name and I want to sort that document to make sure it gets to the specific folder location in the CRM or ERP or whatever for that doctor. And then maybe even taking that summary and letting the doctor know, here's what this document's about. Here's some actions that we think you need to take. And maybe it's just refilling a prescription, authorizing the refill of a prescription or something like that. So that's, I've already spent too much time because I've kind of given away. This is kind of one of the last things we're going to touch on at Comms vNext. So that's, AI as it pertains to actually attaching to physical hardware that sits in customer prem.
I love it. I love it. And you can take that, Brandon, and I think I missed a portion of what you were saying just because my computer kind of blipped out for a second. But basically, I was just thinking about this too. I mean, there is a whole world of sorting out there. I mean, we've talked to people for like healthcare as an example, where they have a tremendous amount of resources dedicated to sorting fax documents and placing them in the right spot. Whether it be DocuSign as an example for a doctor to go in and sign off on this, sign off on that, or I've had spoken with medical professionals that basically say, hey, they go take 50 faxes a day and go load them into a doctor's DocuSign so they can sign off on them every day. And I'm like, what a task! Like that to me seems like a tremendous amount of wasted time. It's not wasted because it's a requirement for them on their part, but if you look at that, you go, couldn't that be automated? I think it could, couldn't it? From this perspective, Brandon, I mean, with Teams Fax, you could probably automate that process, right? And actually have some intelligence around where it goes, the actual sorting of it. If you're able to sort it out from a physical machine like that, you could certainly go sort it out and go, this goes to this doctor, this goes to that doctor, this goes to that doctor.
Yep. Yeah. And then thinking about ways to, this is more roadmap ideas for Momentum, thinking about ways of using cognitive services to help those healthcare agencies. So when that office worker or manager steps up to the fax machine, puts the document and hits go, we pause that fax long enough to run it through cognitive services to say, whoa, we're detecting a possible HIPAA or PCI breach. Please review. And giving pause, because today, in a fax world, if I hit fax and I hit go, it's gone. It's out on the wire and it's gone. So we're thinking of ideas of how do we bring in AI cognitive services to start pausing workflows to help protect agencies around HIPAA and PCI or PII requirements.
Excellent.
Looking at the healthcare scenario itself, like in many cases, you get the reports coming in, like the testing reports that comes in. What if that report summarizes and sends out an adaptive card to the doctor without reading through the whole report? It has a quick summary of all report coming in, and then the doctor can take the next step of actions as such.
Yeah, it's again, I'd commented on Mark's LinkedIn post about this. It blows open the doors for what's possible with fax. And again, to his point, many people laughed at us. I think we're the ones laughing now because we know we're sitting on a gold mine, even though it seems so historically trivial.
It is kind of funny how often people come to us for faxing now. Now it's a daily inflow of opportunities related to faxing, and it's pretty fun. Okay, what else? I am super excited about the agentic discussion and topics that we're going to see at Comms vNext. That's going to I'm very interested in that space, and so I think it's going to be pretty exciting to go take part in that and see what Microsoft's doing in that space.
I think one other one that's it's been of interest to me for even since last year is the integration of Microsoft Loop in workflows. I just don't think that gets. I'm sure in big enterprises it gets quite a bit of attention. I've said it internally multiple times. We need to embrace Loop. We need to go. I think it is a way to reimagine workflow and project management tasks. So I'm excited for that. I know there's topics around Loop. So I'm definitely excited about that at Comms vNext.
I think I have this sort of AI sort of thing embedded in me now, just because it's not a chip. It's more like a fiance is what that's. She's my actual artificial intelligence, right? Because I live with someone who's involved in that space a little bit, and literally she's got a book out now, and so it's like AI contact center stuff. It's literally so not just here at work, but at home too. I sit here and I've asked for an autograph yet, and she hasn't given it to me yet. But if you haven't got a copy of this Catherine Weir's AI contact centers, I think she's got a booth at Comms vNext where she's basically signing autographed copies of it. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say I'll get the autograph before you do, Rick.
You will get the autograph. It's mostly because you identify on an intellectual level, Brandon, and
Right.
I get to skip out on that because I'm
That's
like
right.
I'm just a product guy. Like I'm not a technical, I'm just a product guy. Like
So
I'm on with 3 technical guys. I'm like the technical horsepower. Why don't you show me the technical horsepower? Satish or Louis or Brandon, one of you guys, there's some massive technical horsepower that's going to be at Comms vNext. What does that technical horsepower look like? Can you share that?
There for a second, my brain wasn't connecting the dots. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I gotcha.
You got
It's
me.
Friday,
You got.
man. It's Friday.
I'm trying not to just say, boom. Look at the technical horsepower. Look at me. I get to take part in this.
So
I
now explain the document, Rick. What is this
Well,
document?
so this is really just to show partners and customers really that when you kind of hire Momentum as your voice provider, your managed service provider, as it relates to teams, that you've got a team of super knowledgeable people that are in this space. Me, I'm like the token, or how you have those when you get those degrees, like the actors get a degree from a college or something like that, but it's not a real degree. What do you call those? Like honorary? Is it honorary or something? I'm like an honorary Teams person, mostly because I have a podcast that we talk about Microsoft Teams. It's pretty much all it is. But I'm like honorary on there. But for the most part, you got 2 MVPs and 2 super technical people with the certifications like out both ears in Brandon and Louis, and then some super popular MVPs in Mark Vale, who runs Commsverse, the largest sort of Teams UC show in the world. And then you've got Satish, who is are you the 3rd most popular speaker, or the 2nd, or the 1st? What place are you in, the most popular Microsoft speaker in the world at Microsoft events? What's your place in that, Satish?
now I'm like the 4th one on the list.
Oh, 4th, you've dropped. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible for bringing that up.
No problems.
Satish travels around the world. Satish travels around the world presenting at Microsoft events. Sorry, Brandon, what were you? I cut you off there.
I was going to say, to be in the top 5 is impressive.
It's pretty amazing. So this is the team you'll see at Comms vNext.
One thing for you, Brandon, would be is that Commsverse, the Loop product group would be there. So in case if you want to give them any feedback, they would be coming in as well.
That's right. Yeah. No, I plan on hooking up with those guys. We've got our CTO joining us this year for Comms vNext. I shouldn't be saying this, but he's decided to forego CCA. No offense to those guys and their event, but we've convinced our CTO Mark Marquez to join us at Comms vNext, and I'm going to try to strategically put him in front of the Loop guys, the Microsoft Loop guys, because I think seeing is believing when it comes to Loop. And I know the demo those Loop guys gave last year at Comms vNext was phenomenal.
Cool. That was very, very cool. Well, you could find him, Brandon, in my session, because he's going to join me in my session and talk a little bit about some technical things as well. So it's pretty cool. Okay, I think that's going to be the stopping point for this Friday, because I think either one or all of us have a beer to go grab at some point. And some like beer and tacos sound pretty good right about now, right? It's like late lunch, guys. You know, I'm holding out this whole thing, and I'm preparing for a vacation in Mexico. So I'm building up my endurance for beer and tacos. You know, so that's where I'm headed next.
I might save it though for Monday, because we're going to a German beer house, a traditional German beer house here in Denver. I have very good German friends, so they're probably rolling their eyes at me right now. Don't you dare call it traditional. But anyway, to play bocce ball, and same thought, right, Rick, is, man, a really ice cold lager while playing bocce ball sounds amazing.
Sounds like a good time. Everyone, that's a wrap for episode 88 of Everything Teams Phone Live. Lots to cover. We're excited to see everyone at Comms vNext this coming, is it Monday or a couple days from now?
Tuesday.
So I'm pretty darn excited about it. Brandon, that's a wrap. Why don't you take us out?
You know, I just have to kind of find Bailey in the green room and say, Bailey, let's go
Wrap it
out.
up.
It's the weekend.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
all.
We'll see you next
Bye.
time.